Miami Hurricanes head coach Mario Cristobal just revealed some news that should give the Hurricanes a nice offensive boost against USF.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. It's another Victory Monday. I'm Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Rivals at Canes County. Thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com and use promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. On this episode, we are going to talk about some surprising and not so surprising player grades so far this season, which Miami Hurricane players are trending as the games are getting tougher starting this weekend against USF. We're going to talk about some recruiting insights with our guest today because, not only is Miami winning and looking good so far, but two of your rival in-state teams are doing the opposite of that. And so how does that boost Miami Hurricanes recruiting? But as we bring on our awesome guest for today, Gio Milian, who does a great job. I love working with this man. So Gio, Mario Cristobal on the Joe Rose Show this morning, Monday morning, he revealed that starting left tackle Jalen Rivers, who missed the FAMU and Ball State games, is going to be back this weekend against USF. And starting right guard Anez Cooper, who left the game, I think it was in the second quarter against Ball State, left the game, and it looked like he kind of got rolled up. I was really nervous about it, but Cooper's made of iron. He's made of a combination of iron and rubber. He's going to be fine. He's going to be back in practice tomorrow. Mario Cristobal says Anez Cooper will play this Saturday as well. So being able to keep Coop and bring back your starting left tackle who missed the last couple games, how much of a boost is that going to be for Miami taking on the Bulls this week?
Well, Dono, just wanted to tell you, happy Monday. The Canes are 3-0. Florida State's 0-3, and it's a big boost. It is a very big boost for the offensive line. Reason why, Markel Bell obviously getting valuable experience within the last two games between the Florida A&M game and Ball State. Had a little bit of mistakes here and there. Had one which took back a Isaiah Horton touchdown that went for over 60 yards. Really impressive in itself. But obviously getting an all-conference left tackle back in Jalen Rivers is huge. His injury was nothing too serious. Everyone had questions about Anez Cooper, though. Many fans were tweeting at me during the game while I was on the field, taking photos and everything. I'll share this. Aside from what Cristobal said, Anez was fine, actually. He was in the huddle even after he kind of like tweaked his ankle on the play.
Right.
He was in the huddle, active the whole time with the guys. They put him in a precautionary boot afterwards. Some people got worried. They're like, "Oh man, he's in a boot." It's just precautionary. It's just all for the soft tissue there and whatnot. So it's huge. It's huge to get those guys back because I've shared this sentiment with you before. We actually said this on Who Wants Smoke last Wednesday. I said I'm a little skeptical of Miami's run game, and they did establish it more against Ball State, but they need to continue. And I think USF is a perfect game for that. Just kind of wearing teams down. Some fans starting to raise question now that I brought up over a week ago about Damien Martinez and when is he really going to get going? Ajay Allen obviously bursting off, having two good games back-to-back. Jordan Lyle flashing out there. Mark Fletcher. Having those offensive linemen come back is great. And I'll toss in another bone for the fans out there. Some people have asked me about Damari Brown and Ryan Rodriguez. So Ryan Rodriguez, it's going to be a longer period of time. Damari Brown should be back in a couple of weeks.
What about Bain?
Oh, great question. Possibility he could play this weekend. Much more likely Virginia Tech.
I like it. So and thinking when you talk about USF and hopefully Miami is able to wear them down a bit with that running game. And this is a USF team that they played Alabama tough for basically 3.5 quarters until Bama was able to sort of just blow the dam near the end of the game. And there's a couple things about. I'd like your takes on USF. Now I've started my deep dive this week. I take it one game at a time, as Miami's players and coaches do. But I've started my own deep dive on USF, and like what stands out to me about their offense. Really impressive rushing attack. They're 8th in America so far in rushing. But conversely, they're 120th in America in passing. Does that paint the picture of a one-dimensional offense? And what are we thinking about that defense heading in?
Yeah, I think their quarterback is dynamic in the essence that he's a really good runner. They have 3 running backs that are very effective. One actually a South Florida native that I got to watch a ton coming out of high school. He was a big-time Little League legend in Naquan Wright, who transferred out of the Florida program, saved his career leaving Gainesville. But yeah, I agree with you, Dono. Though some concerns there in terms of USF's pass game. They haven't really got it rolling yet. They do have a talented receiver though in Sean Atkins. He's very much a great player. Still questions on the outside in terms of the receiving game as a whole. He's more of a slot guy for them. So, yeah, I think your assessment of the Bulls offense is pretty much on point. Nice running game. They still haven't got the pass going. Their defense, though, on the other hand, at least to my observation, especially going back and watching the Alabama and USF game, I watched bits and pieces of it while they were playing, but went to watch afterwards. Their front four, at least their defensive line, they can really create pressure without even sending linebackers on blitz or disguising a defensive back blitz. They can really get after it. They were sending 4 or 3 guys after Jalen Milroe in Alabama, and they were getting in the backfield.
So here's the $1 million question. I think we can all agree that USF is a significantly bigger test than Ball State, of course, and a significantly bigger test than Florida A&M. Well, could this be a tougher game than even Florida? And of course, we didn't know heading into the Florida game what it would become there, where now, boosters are doing whatever they can to get that $26 million check to get rid of Billy Napier. But will this be a tougher test than the Gators?
I think in some ways, yes. It's hard to say because despite Florida's struggles, they have recruited well in some aspects of their roster, and they do have talent on that roster. I would say maybe South Florida is a better coached team, though, than the Florida Gators are right now. So yes and no. But just for the sake of the question, though, I do think South Florida is more of a challenge for Miami, at least in this 2024 season. I do think so.
Well, we have a lot more still to get to on this episode of Locked On Canes. It is USF week. Miami, by the way, because when I was on yesterday recapping the Ball State game, the new AP rankings had not dropped yet. Miami did move up 2 spots to number 8. So Hurricanes not only top 10, now top 8 in America. They're going to take on the USF Bulls on the road this Saturday night, 7 p.m. in Tampa. I want to get down to some recruiting insights with our guy Gio Milian when we come back. You want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. Guys, I'm only getting started with 5-Hour Energy. First of all, 5-Hour Energy, it tastes great. It puts that pep in my step. It helps me leap over that wall instead of crashing into that afternoon wall. And it's been so important, especially during football season, because I stay up late to watch some of these night games. Like, Cal played a 10:30 p.m. game on Saturday. I was up watching that, waking up early the next morning. I'm able to tackle that with a 5-Hour Energy with 0 sugar and a convenient portable size. It's the perfect pick-me-up for getting stuff done. The 5-Hour Energy website has flavors galore, like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, which is my personal favorite, berry, and so much more. There's a flavor for everyone. On the site, you even have the option to build your own 12-pack or 24-pack. You choose the flavors, and it's delivered right to your door. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, and get some 5-Hour Energy product today. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONCFB. to receive 20% off your order. This offer only valid until September 30th on one order, cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch on this Victory Monday. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure for your next listen, you check out Locked On ACC. I co-host that show with Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. We take you around the conference, big winners, big losers from every week. There have been some big losers in the ACC, including Florida State. They can't win a game. It's crazy. We'll talk more about it on Locked On ACC. Here on Locked On Canes, we're joined by Gio Milian. So, Gio, again, Miami is in this fortuitous situation where, and already they have a staff that can recruit like crazy. We saw what Cristobal was able to do after a 5-7 season, top 10 class, 7-5 season, top 5 class. Now Miami's off to a great start, and two of the programs you recruit against, Florida is 1-2, about to fire their coach. Florida State is 0-3. They're stuck with their coach, which may not even be a better situation right now. So how are you seeing this benefiting Miami? And are there any names out there you'd like to kind of circle as recruits the Hurricanes can go after?
It's a great time if you're a Miami Hurricane fan and you love recruiting and you love the loafers. It's loafer season for Mario Cristobal. He's definitely putting in the work right now. I will say this in terms of Florida and Florida State, some guys to circle on there that they have committed within those programs. Joshua Moore, 4-star wide receiver out of West Broward High School. Ben Hanks Jr. out of Booker T. Washington, the 4-star cornerback. Vernell Brown III is a little bit of a long shot. I've been on record saying that as well. The 5-star wide receiver from the Orlando area, Orlando Jones High School. Plays with Darion Coleman, the 2026 quarterback commit for Miami. Florida State side of things, though, I've said this on your very own show before, Dono. Miami and Solomon Thomas, they have had communication. I have overheard that he could be visiting for the Miami-Florida State game, the 5-star offensive lineman from Jacksonville Reigns. So Mario's putting in that extra work, the midnight grind, the midnight oil. He's definitely putting that in. But some other prospects of note to mention. So 5-star offensive lineman Michael Carroll from IMG Academy came down over the weekend. He was there for game day. Actually, funny story about the recruits, because they have them all in Club Live and everything during and before the game. Many of them were actually sleeping during the weather delays at just
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all taking naps and everything, just waiting for the game to start. You know, I think they woke up when Cristobal came out to midfield and just started hyping up the fans on the microphone.
That was so cool.
Yes, that was an amazing moment. You know, you could tell that Mario really loves his school, and this is his school. He went here, he won a national championship here, actually 2, celebrated with his 1989 team over the weekend as well. So definitely a lot of great things happening in Coral Gables right now. But Michael Carroll also spent Sunday over on campus as well at Miami. The Pennsylvania native. He's not originally from the state of Florida, but committed to Alabama. Miami's very much in the mix there. We'll have to see as the season continues to progress. They're going to continue chipping away with him. A couple other guys I'll mention. DJ Pickett from Tampa, Florida, the Tampa, Florida area, Zephyr Hills High School. I'll say this much. I spoke with him after he visited for the Florida A&M game, and I've always noticed this with DJ Pickett, just whether interviewing him during the 7-on-7 circuit or during the high school season in the past and whatnot. He is the type that he's very careful with his words, especially now being committed to LSU, because we would ask him certain questions, and it seemed like he would try to tiptoe around it, but I do believe Miami has a great shot at flipping him. And I'll toss another name in there as well. Dallas Wilson, the 5-star wide receiver that's committed to Oregon out of Tampa Bay Tech. Miami's very much in that one too. So those are just some names to toss out there. I know many people have questions about Elijah Griffin, who was supposed to be on campus. So they're still reworking the date for him to come and visit. Florida State is a weekend that you could circle down there.
Yeah, and just it's a quick side note. Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm almost like, as long as he does come back at some point, I'm okay that he didn't make it to this Ball State game. Of
Yeah.
course, it was a great display of football by Miami, but it wasn't a big game. And that 2.5 hour weather delay, it's like, I'm such a recruiting nerd, Gio, that when that weather delay was going on, I'm like, the first thing I thought about was, hey, I'm kind of glad Elijah Griffin isn't here for this, right? That he can come. Hopefully, Florida State game is a great showcase for Miami without a 2.5 hour lightning delay. So there's bigger games he can still come to, or if he wants to come to that. I know that it kind of sucks that they made that Virginia Tech game a Friday night, because that's, a lot of high school teams play on Friday night. So I wish that was a Saturday night, but whenever he's able to make it down for a bigger game, assuming that happens, it's probably better than being here for Ball State.
Oh, of course, 100%. Even though, let's be honest, the rivalry game is a little bit watered down this year between Miami and Florida State, because Florida State's struggles throughout their first 3 games. Mike Norvell losing to his former team he was the head coach of in the Memphis Tigers. I mean, to add insult to injury there. And also, first time they've gone 0-3 since we're talking well over 70, 80 years at Florida State. It's a long time. So sticking to the track of recruiting, other names I'll throw out there. TJ Alford, the 4-star linebacker out of Vero Beach, committed to Ohio State. He actually came very close to committing to Miami it was actually in the spring when he announced to the Buckeyes. Miami has stayed in consistent communication. I've been on the record saying this multiple times. He's a name to keep tracking. Miami's still involved there. Sure enough, he showed up for a game day visit last week. I like where Miami's positioned in that recruitment too. And another one that I love Miami for, Kellen Wiley, the 6'4", 6'5" linebacker out of Armwood High School. This guy was raving about Coach Derek Nicholson, at the Miami's linebackers coach right now. He loves them. He loves the coach. He loves how the linebackers play, how they're aggressive, how they get after it. Just everything about the program he really likes. And what's even better is, I was told right when Miami was getting involved with him, when they offered him after that first game between Norland and Armwood, where Gerard Pringle really exploded, Florida State was going to be a thorn in Miami's side in that recruitment. But from what I understand, not so much anymore, especially with how Florida State started the season. And then his teammate as well, aside from Pringle, Miami's still recruiting 4-star wide receiver Tyler Williams at Armwood High School, who's committed to the Georgia Bulldogs. They actually pulled away in the last minute by offering him during official visit season. He was a Miami lean for quite some time. So just a lot of great stuff happening. And I'm just trying to make sure I'm not forgetting anything for your viewers, Bono. But I think maybe 1 or 2 other names that I'd throw in there just for names to monitor, just for the sake of the show and the question. It's a great question, actually, considering Miami's start and Florida State and Florida looking so awful. Jerry Norris, the 3-star defensive tackle out of Spruce Creek High School, committed to Georgia Tech. Some people on Miami's side of things, they were kind of surprised when he committed to Georgia Tech. Some Canes fans started saying, "Oh, well, he wasn't a take." That was never the case. Miami was very much all in on him. He came down for a visit just this past weekend against Ball State. Came with his teammate too, who recently was offered by Miami, and not just one of those situations where Miami just offers a kid to offer him. The kid got offered by Miami, the 2026 defensive lineman, and he went off and had a 3-sack game right afterwards. So he must have been hyped up about that offer. But Derry Norris, Miami very much has a shot there as well. And just skimming down at QB, running back, wide receiver, tight end. There will be movement in the recruiting class. Some guys will be kind of asked to look at other programs and whatnot, but nothing too major. Miami's only going to continue improving their recruiting class. And last one, we have an announcement coming up very soon in the 2025 recruiting class. Running back Byron Lewis from American heritage between Miami, Colorado, Florida State. Those are some of the schools that have been involved. I continue to hear that Florida State has recruited him the best, but knowing the Miami coaches and how much they value the senior tape and senior evaluations, and this is just their whole thought process they've had since they've arrived here, that they're really big on that in terms of guys' progression throughout their careers, especially that last year of high school they value so much. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami tries to make a late push, considering how well he's playing to start this season. Before the season started, I would have probably said probably a deadlock to Florida State, but it wouldn't shock me. Their approach to the running back recruiting, people have asked the question of, are they going to take two or not? They've kind of been very comfortable with Gerard Pringle and just what they have in the entire room. So if they do push, great. If they don't, Miami's got a great situation there. And sorry, I'm sorry for rambling, but
hey, you're rolling
here. 2026, Derek Cooper and Jabari Brady.
Oh yeah,
5-star running back Derek Cooper. Miami, great position there. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in Miami's class before the season ends, actually. And Jabari Brady, the 4-star wide receiver that's now back at Monarch High School. Miami's in a great spot there. And 5-star wide receiver Calvin Russell III, a Miami legacy. I continue to hear that Miami's way out in front right now. And he's been, at least the saying that's been told to me from a couple of coaches that have been around him, and even 7-on-7 guys that I know in the scene, that they think he's very much a generational type of talent, like along the lines of the Jeremiah Smiths, Calvin Ridleys, Jerry Judys of the world, the Stacey Coleys, Amon Richards, whatever you want to name it, but he is that type of special talent.
That is a big box of nuggets right there. That's like 100-piece recruiting nuggets we get from Gio Million. I want to talk a little bit about Miami's Pro Football Focus grades from Ball State when we come back. You might be surprised as to who the highest graded Miami Hurricane on the field was and how that could impact the Miami Hurricanes' future. My friends, you want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet with Gio Million on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You know I'm not done with FanDuel. From Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, all the college games on Saturday, all the pro games on Sundays. There's so much action to be had. And yeah, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, so you have 6 more days, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment that you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We got my guy Gio Million, and also I'm pleased to join every midweek Who Wants Smoke. I joined Gio and Amon Richards and our guy Marsh on a multimedia show, including Twitter Spaces or X, whatever we call it now, X Spaces, Twitter Spaces. It's a really awesome time. We'll talk a little bit more about it before we're done. But Gio, going through, and obviously Miami got a lot of players on the field against Ball State this past weekend, but starters, backups, all inclusive. The guy who graded out the highest was Miami's quarterback #2 last week, Emery Williams, who went 11 for 12, should have been 12 for 12 because the 12th one was a dropped pass with a touchdown, 161 yards. So he actually graded out higher than Cam Ward did in that game. And Ward might be the best player in the country, but he wasn't the best player on the field this past Saturday somehow. Anything you could talk about Emery, and then also anything else that stood out to you about the PFF grades?
Well, with Emery, I'll share this. There was a lot of fans ragging on him because they're like, oh, well, I didn't really like what he showed between the Clemson and Florida State game. And I've always tried to simplify it, at least for the fans that have watched the games. You have to remember and understand that Emery was a true freshman last season when he played against a ranked Clemson team that had NFL players all over that defense. Florida State's defense last year, another ranked team, and that defense had NFL players on it as
Yeah.
well. He flashed in those games. I'm not going to venture to say that he was amazing, but he had his moments, and he was a true freshman. And Miami fans, if you've been watching through these first 3 games, there are guys that have entered their second and third and fourth years in this program that have jumped to another level this season. Wesley Basainth being one of those guys. Jaden Harris specifically as well. He's had a really nice start to the season.
By the way, you and I called that one, by the way, when
Yes.
people were dogging him during fall camp because of like 8-second long video clips, but we told people Jaden Harris is going to be good.
Yes. Never read too much into the practice clips. That's just very small portion of the entire course. So, yes, Emery Williams, thoroughly impressed with him and just how he played. He was accurate. He was composed. I understand it was Ball State, but regardless, these are valuable reps that Miami is getting for their younger players. Emery Williams coming back from an injury, getting into the game and almost having a perfect game. That's amazing for his confidence moving forward, especially coming off his injury. That's phenomenal. But in terms of the player grade, so I want to pull it back up in front of me because I had it here. I was looking at them yesterday when they released. Even though he played 3 snaps, which I felt like this guy played way more than that during this game, but he's played a lot in between the first 2 games. Riley Williams, he had a 91 grade just only on 3 snaps, but
And a big catch.
if he had the big catch, he's always been blocking well since the season has started. He's a second-year guy that's taken a jump this year too. You put on the tape from Florida and Florida A&M. He's blowing guys up right off the line, like no problem at all. His blocking is great. And then last week against Florida A&M, had that big catch, tried to hurdle over the defender. I think I had some photos of that as well. But definitely one of the surprises there. Just on 3 snaps alone, a 91 grade. So he really must have impressed within that. But other impressions, though, not so much by grades, but I really implore people to go back and watch the game and look at how Armando Blunt and Malik Bryant were playing. Specifically Armando Blunt, because he's a 17-year-old kid. And if you watch him and how he's playing out there on the edge, he's going to help Miami this year. Especially if Miami makes a run this year, you need that depth. They're going to need him at some point, whether it's injuries or guys getting wear and tear as the season goes on. He's really going to help Miami. And Malik Bryant, wow, just Miami moving him from linebacker to an edge rusher, his natural position coming out of high school, and he's really starting to flourish right now.
All right, so there's a question I have to ask you because I am a man of the people, Gio, and Locked On Canes is a democracy. And when I see we've been flooded over the last couple days with comments on the YouTube channel, on our X account at Locked On Canes, and also from the Locked On Canes Insiders chat, people have questions about certain running backs. Okay, so here's a twofer. Number one. You think Ajay Allen is earning a more prominent spot in the rotation because he balled against Ball State? And is there any concern about Damien Martinez, who only got 3 carries in the game? And it's like, obviously we've seen some really good from Martinez this year. We've also seen maybe a little bit too much hesitancy when it comes to hitting the hole. A lot of people want to know about those 2 guys. Martinez is the stock down. Ajay Allen is the stock soaring.
Yes. I'll put it to you this way. I was kind of surprised that Ajay Allen was running back 5 to open the season. Don't get me wrong. Chris Johnson Jr., very explosive. He's been great in the pass game. Hasn't shown a lot in the run game yet, but it's just in terms of opportunities. Jordan Lyle, really impressive, especially with his pass blocking. One of the things that kind of held AJ, well, two things that held AJ Allen back last year, but he showed a lot of flashes of just having that juice a year ago. Pass protection was the biggest thing for him. Haven't seen him in many opportunities yet in terms of pass protection this season. We'll have to see that. That could be one of the factors that it might be holding him back from taking more snaps. But I've always thought he's a tremendous talent. I've been on the record. I've said it in the group chats we're both in, Donna, that I've always felt that AJ Allen has great talent. I definitely think he's earned more reps. Now, in terms of how do you figure that out, if he's still having issues with pass protection, that's another thing. And he's coming off a shoulder injury that he was kind of nursing during the season last year, missed the spring, but he's gotten bigger this year. It's noticeable. He's definitely bigger than he was last year, and it's really helped him in terms of just yards after contact. He's bouncing off of guys, spinning off of guys. Not even just the Ball State game. Like you put on the tape from the Florida A&M game, even a couple of reps against Florida, he looks really good out there. He looks good. He's got juice. In terms of Damien Martinez and just the rest of the running backs, I've had the hot take, and I said it last week on Who Wants Smoke on Wednesday with you and Amon, that I felt that Mark Fletcher has been Miami's best running back to open this season. Now, does that mean that I'm completely out on Damien Martinez? No, I think Damien Martinez is a really good talent. I also think Miami fans have to understand that there's a little bit of an adjustment period here going on, because the offense that he played in at Oregon State, a lot of I formation, under center, downhill running from him. He's a little bit of a different type of back compared to the others, a little bit more patient, that Le'Veon Bell type of running back. I think USF is a game where it could be the Damien Martinez game, that I think Miami might have a little bit more of a tougher fight compared to their first three opponents heading on the road and playing the Bulls at Raymond James Stadium. So we'll see. I'm not completely out on Damien Martinez, but I understand the fans' criticism or concerns to the first few games here, and rightfully so. I am a little shocked that he hasn't gotten off to a faster start.
Well, really good stuff here, as always, from Gio, South Florida sports reporter Gio Million. You see where to follow him on X at Gio Million. Keeps it really easy. We're going to be doing a Who Wants Smoke probably this Wednesday afternoon. I'm a little bit of a diva because we like to do evenings, but I always make these plans. Like, I'm always like screwing up the schedule, but we'll be doing something probably on Wednesday afternoon. Gio, I appreciate your time so much, man. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, anytime. And go Canes.
Go Canes. We'll talk to you guys next time. We'll have the Truth Teller on tomorrow. And by the way, the Truth Teller has some strong opinions on Miami's running attack so far. So we'll get that from Bruce Warner tomorrow on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.